welcome everybody, and thank you so much for your presence this morning. We're going to go into our fourth of our Living Life series, which is our second last session. Can you believe we've been doing this every week since April, and we'll be finishing next week. But today we're particularly going to focus on living our life in terms of that original classification that we spoke about, if some of you were with us at the beginning of this series, which talks about to live our lives. You know, when we're classified as living, we are in fact growing and developing, using energy, and we are responding and adapting to our environment. And I really wanted to focus today on that part of our definition of classified of living, which is when you actually focus on the energy in relation specifically to our personal presence. And I wanted you to think about your personal presence and how you show up with your energy from a personal point of view, and how you use your energy. And that's directly related to this concept that we have been that's overarchingly looking that we focused on in the series since April, which is you are in control of your choices and you can choose how you think, feel, and behave. So we're going to tackle this, and kind of the invitation is to look at your personal presence, how you appear, how you choose to show up in front of people from two perspectives. One, we're going to focus on that personal perspective in terms of how you apply your energy. You know, sometimes you can come into a room and you can absolutely, you're thinking, feeling, and behaving as if you don't want to be there. And you can actually feel that energy. Have you ever experienced that in yourself and others? It's like you get dragged along to a function, you don't want to be there, and you think, feel, and behave in a way that shows you don't want to be there. And so there's almost a shrinking of energy around you. People sort of shrink away from you, and you fulfill that. So we're going to talk about that, and I'd like for you, for the moment, if there's anything in your thinking as you come into the room that is kind of toxic or is distracted, so you want to actually you're feeling like you need to do emails while you're working, or you need to focus on something that happened before you got here, apply your mind to that now. And I'd like you to think about is if you're coming into this webinar, almost leaving, you're at one side of a bridge, and you're going to leave any toxic thoughts, anything that's going to distract you. You're going to put those into a suitcase on the one side of the bridge, put them there. You can come back and get them, okay? And walk across the bridge and now be present completely. Because we are going to focus not only on your personal presence, but we're also going to speak about how you expand your presence and how that affects other people, and how you can actually include them and include them in a positive way, or alternatively, it becomes a kind of like a toxic experience that they have when they come into your environment. So that's what I'd like you to invite you to do today, and really just come into the room recognizing that you're totally here and that you can contribute and you can be present. And while we do that, we're going to invite you into an actual practice. So if you are sitting down or standing, either way, I'd like you now to think about where you are actually sitting. And we're going to go into, you've done this before, I want you to think almost in terms of a sitting practice. Think of you, this is you over here, and this is the center of your energy. So this will be you, okay, and this will be me, and this will be the other people that are on the call. And at the moment, we're talking about 57 people on the call with us. So when you come into the room, just connect for a moment. As you sit where you are, we've done a sitting practice before. I want you to try it now. I want you to almost sit with your bum bones connected to the chair, your feet on the ground, your head above your shoulders above your hips, and just make sure that you create a bit of space between your ribs and your tummy, so that actually so that you've got space for your organs to breathe. And I want you just for a moment to apply your mind to something that is really positive for you. And just take yourself to a positive space. It's almost like a positive memory that you can share, a positive interaction, and just take yourself to that space. And if you can, I want you now to just connect that positive energy to your body. Just think about where it is showing up in your body. Now, I don't want you to fret about it. If you can't feel it in your body, recognize that, and we'll come back to that, and you're going to try it, okay? But if you can't feel it in your body, I want you now to just feel it. So just pause there, don't judge it. But if you can, you will locate it in your body. And if you're like me, you're probably feeling it right now in our chest, in my chest. I'm feeling it in my chest and my tummy. So just be aware of where that is. And then gently come back into the room with that positive energy in place. Don't wriggle your fingers or try to disrupt it. Now, the significance of what you've just done is recognizing that you are in control of your energy and your states. You can decide actively by applying your thinking and your feeling, you can elicit behavior that will actually bring you into a positive space, a more open space, a space that creates possibilities. A beautiful example of this is how we share our energy. And I want you to just get this concept. What I create, it's almost like our energy. These pictures of the three of us linked to each other. And I'll give you an example of this. I don't know if any of you were able to attend any of the World Cups. You know, I attended the World Cup soccer. My husband in the early 90s attended the World Cup that South Africa played in. But what happened to me was, and this is just an example of how we share energy and influence each other with the energy that we show up. I arrived at the Ellis Park, and we were parked about 2 k's away. I was kind of tired. And as I got out of the car, I met my husband and my kids there, and I got out of the car and I started walking down the walkway into Ellis Park. And there were people, a community was on the side of the road, and the fans were all over, and I suddenly started to feel the energy, not only of that game, but I don't know if you experienced it, but you could feel it across the country. There was an energy that we shared. And that's what I'm talking about. I mean, literally in the walk from the car park to the stadium, I had picked a team because I loved the fact that Mexico supporters were doing this like rattle thing that was going around. I picked a team. I was so excited, and that energy had actually influenced me. And that's what I'm talking about. How do you choose to influence the energy that you bring into a room? And I don't know about you, but it actually lasted for a long time over that period as we shared that energy. So you're doing the same thing. You're bringing energy into this room. And I want you to just think about, and into this webinar, even though you think that we cannot feel it, you bring that into the space. So that's how you manage your personal energy, okay? So when we take that personal energy, now that we realize the impact of our thinking, feeling, and behavior, I want you to just go into the space where you apply your mind to the kinds of thoughts that you have been thinking about over the last couple of weeks. So just go back a couple of weeks or even recently and apply your mind to what thoughts have dominated your mind. Okay, so what thoughts have dominated your mind? And particularly, I want you to think about a mindset around possibilities. So I'd like you for a moment, if you have a pen and paper next to you, available to you, I want you to just answer this question for yourself. This is for you checking in with yourself. So it's, if we can understand how we think, we can also understand how we can manage our thinking. So if we think about possibilities, inevitably we look at something and we see it for what it is in front of us, but we see more than just what is in front of us. We see the possibilities that are related to what is in front of us. And to give you an example of this, it's almost like if you are an entrepreneur in the audience, or you are a problem solver and you have to bring solutions to the table. It's like we look at something and we have to be able to look at options, not just the one thing. We have to explore and expand our minds. So on a rating of 1 to 10, I'd like you now to just put in your thought catalog or your piece of paper, 1 to 10, how many times have you thought about things over the last couple of weeks and you've established possibilities? 1 is being, I just don't think about possibilities, and 10 is I've been thinking a lot about different possibilities. I want to give you a quick example of how I experienced this from a a technician from our fiber company who came to our home to fix our our fiber connection. He came on Monday after we had been down for 48 hours. So you can imagine now we were not happy, okay? And so he came in, and within 2 minutes, he had fixed the situation. I came back, I literally put the keys down, came back, and it was done. And I said to him, my word, I'm hoping we didn't bring you out here for no reason. And he said, well, look, this is what I did. And he said, tell me what happened. And he not only, he fixed that problem, right? So the first issue he fixed, that was the first thing. The second thing is that he actually, when I relayed the story, he actually said to me, oh my word, that's a training opportunity, because the way that they screened the course for you, they could have established what the fault was. So that he saw it as a learning opportunity. The third thing is that I actually I asked him about my husband's computer, and so he actually tested the cable that went to my husband's computer and identified that the cable was working, and we had to work on a card. He explored. That's a beautiful example of not only amazing customer experience, but an example of him thinking about possibilities at least at a 9 or a 10. He absolutely on his thought catalog could fill it in at a 9 or a 10. So now I want you to think about expectations. How do you think about things when you kind of like answer the phone and you kind of go, okay, I'm going to wake up today. What is your expectation? What do you expect to happen? When you're faced with an issue, do you expect bad things to happen, or do you expect good things to happen? Now, I'm not saying this because this is a right or a wrong. What I'm really asking you to think about is connect to how you think, because how you think is how we feel and how we behave. And inevitably, we fulfill these expectations that we have. They come alive. And so we create this energy around us that has an expectation of openness or just neutral. I'm not expecting bad or good, or I'm expecting bad or good, and we influence that environment. So now, remember, I asked you to just leave behind your issues that you had when you came into the room, because we're going to go into the space now where we're going to take time to learn about how we learn, okay? So I want you're going to do that exercise we did just now when you came into the room. We're going to do it again, but I'm going to ask you to do it slightly differently. So now we're going to actually go to that sitting practice, and we're going to focus on that positive energy in ourselves, and we're going to now look to try and expand that positive energy so that it not only is in that one place you identified. Before we go into this exercise, I want you to recognize for a moment, if you cannot even identify in your body where you experience positivity, please don't fret. Then that's a starting point for you. But if you can, and it's in your body, we are going to now expand it. So don't judgment, just see which level you're operating at. And I want you now to try this. This is not something you can learn theoretically. It's something you need to experience in your body to recognize how you control and manage your energy. So let's go back to the sitting practice. Your feet on the floor, your hands on your thighs, the palms of your hands on your thighs, head above your shoulders, shoulders above your hips. Close your eyes and create some space in between your tummy and your ribs. And let's just allow ourselves to connect to that positive energy moment. Connect to it in your body. And it's now actually, it's actually in my neck and my throat. It's positive. It's like amazing. So connect to that spot. And now what I'd like you to invite you in to do is try to expand that positive energy. It'll be like a little heat ball, or it might be like a little bit of light in your body. Expand it so that it goes in a 3D throughout your body if you can. Expand it, even if it's a little bit like you just see it flicker, that's fine. But try and expand it all the way out of your body, around your body, like a bubble around your body. Connect to that positive energy. Just free yourself up to just enjoy it and experience it. And if you can, focus your mind on that energy, expand it beyond your body, incorporating your chair, maybe the room that you're in, even expanded to include myself, the computer in your mind's eye, expanded to include all of us that are on this call. There's now around 79 of us, include all of us on this call. Imagine you're expanding that positivity to us all. Now, please stay in that state. Can you imagine if you could wake up in the morning and just allow yourself to connect to that positivity first thing as you lie in your bed? And if you are with your wife or your husband, whoever's your partner, allow yourself to almost do this practice every morning as you get up. Amazing how you would be able to step into your day. This is the kind of practice you do when you actually go into a meeting or a client environment and you want to create a sense of positivity, a sense of openness. Think on possibilities and expectations. So now gently open your eyes, but don't release the energy. Don't try to get rid of that energy. Stay with that energy. And I'd like you now to go to the screen and do a little personal poll to reflect on how you think. This is your own personal poll, and I would like you to just think, I recognize when my energy positively or negatively affects my well-being. Go to your thought journal or that little piece of paper if you have one, and mentally note how you are recognizing your energy state, the way you think, feel, and behave, and how it shows up in that energy that you exude. Pick a number for yourself. Pick a number for the second question. I choose the energy I bring into the room. Even when you are taken somewhere you don't want to be with your partner, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, or your son or your daughter, you don't want to be there, but you can choose the state you can be. You've just learned how to do it, in fact, very actively. Where are you on that scale? Now I'm going to ask you about whether you can think about how you think. Do you reflect on your thinking actually? And I'd like you to just select from this your actual poll, because I'd like you to think, because things start with our thinking, right? I want you to think about whether you are reflective. Do you think about your thinking? Do you reflect on when you are positive or negative? How do you manage that? And I want you to select one of those answers now, and we'll share them just now. Once you've done that, I'd like you now to go to the next personal poll that says, I monitor my feelings. Are you in touch with how you are experiencing your emotions on a daily basis? Do you remember our very first session when we started Intentional Choices? If you were there, I would have invited you to stop 3 times a day to check in on your feelings. Do you do this? And then I want to ask you to answer the question, I use positive language. I have somebody I know, she will ask her how things are going, and she'll say, not bad, you know. Now I want you to hear that language, not bad. That's her starting point. The starting point is a point of it's not bad. If she could just, and I always invite her, every time I meet her, to start from a positive language perspective. Actually, I'm having a great day, or it's a good day, and I'm experiencing that day. So now I want you to, as you've reflected on that, we're going to move on just now to think about that action that you take, those questions, how you think, you feel, and you behave, and the energy you generate from that, how it shows up with others. And I'm going to go through this briefly, and we can always go into it in more detail later. But here's kind of a way in which we take that energy state, the think, feeling, and behaving, and now we translate it into interactions with people. Now, I want you to see if you can recognize how you focus with people. Please believe me when I say there is no right and wrong with this. It is how you choose to show up. Now, if you have an I kind of focus, an I-centric, okay, focus, with your thinking, feeling, and behavior, essentially, you're going to look at the world in terms of you come into an interaction. Okay, so remember now you've expanded your energy, now you include others. You will almost come into conversations or interactions where you want to inform people about your view. It's like you listen to the conversation in order to hear confirmation of your perspective. It's pretty much a transactional conversation. It's like, you do this for me, you know, it's almost like you coming in here. Oh, Debbie, you need to share your knowledge with me in this presentation, and I'll take what I can get out of it, okay? And it's like, okay, great. Or you'll listen to what I'm saying to confirm what you know, and the rest you just okay, that's it, you're not there. And we almost become protective in our view. It's like we be precious about our perspective or about showing up and sharing our perspective. The invitation to you is to foster that energy that we just did, that energy exercise, foster, give and take. Almost start from a perspective where you are connecting to a person you know that can give and take, or you have been in a situation which was so positive. It was like a give and a take situation. I want you to think about that. For the next group of people, I want you to think about when you bring your thinking, feeling, and behavior into the room, and it's kind of an I, we centric. You think about me and you think about others. It's like you enjoy to persuade others of your view, but you're also open to hear their view. So it's like, okay, I'm open-minded. You focus on an open mind, but your point of reference is accept and reject. It's like, I accept or I reject what you are saying to me. And it's like you banter. You know, you enter into the space, I'll hear your argument, you hear my argument, and you banter. The invitation to you to develop is a kind of your energy is to look at holding the space. Holding the space and exploring things. It's like exploring the connection you have with others in terms of like a journey, you know. I'm going to hold the space, make you feel safe, make me feel safe, so we can share it. And then I wanted to just end off finally with this concept of you enter into a space with an open heart. There's a sense of I have my views, I'm so comfortable with them, and I can co-create with you. We can create space. This is like that gentleman that came into our home that I mentioned earlier. Amazing ability to co-create with me, an open heart, looking for mutual success for both of us. And if you are in that space, I want you to recognize, to cultivate the energy of sharing space and building relationships, because that energy serves you well. Now, none of these are right or wrong. Sometimes you might co-create way too often, and in fact, you need to think about yourself in this space. That's why I say don't think of them as right and wrong. Think of them as connecting and understanding your energy so that you can make intentional choices about how you can serve yourself in a much fuller way as you go forward in your journey, in your life, in this moment and the next moment and the next moment. So I'm going to pause there. And if you are in a co-create moment or a kind of we, and you want to just share parts of your space and tell us, if you're in that informed moment, either way, you have a view. And I want you now to go to the chat line and share your view. Where are you? And what is coming up for you? Think what is on your thought pad over there, your thought note, and your piece of paper or that mental note you made. And what has become more conscious for you as we've engaged today? Because the objective was really to get you to think about how you think, to recognize your thinking, feeling, and behavior. It creates energy, and that shows up in your behavior. And this is how we ultimately, our energy choices pan out. Share your view, share a story of what might be coming up. Let's hear from you. And so wherever you are on that poll, the invitation is to recognize that thinking about how you think puts you in a position of empowering yourself as you go forward. You are able then to control your thinking. And so you are able to choose to remove from your environment these toxic thoughts. Steve gave us this beautiful example last week. He says, you know, when people put a label on me, I just rip it off and I choose what I want. I'm inviting you now to be so conscious of your thinking. We have so many thoughts. There are thousands of thought transactions that go through our minds, right? At any one time, and we have thousands of thoughts. But to choose to recognize the pattern of your thoughts will liberate you in terms of the kind of opportunity you have to live a fulfilled and happy life. It's like I choose energy that fulfills my life. The quality of my life is to choose that. So I'm going to ask, I know there's a couple of our IOPSA members, and I always end up picking on Steve, but I just wanted to connect with you, and maybe it's a pit opportunity or one of the others, but I almost want to just invite you to share if something came alive for you. And Steve, maybe you want to just take 2 seconds or 30 seconds or so just to share what came alive for you as we were experiencing this process today.
But I think, Debbie, I think that the whole thing for me coming out of where we are is that, in terms of the thinking process, in terms of where we are. So I have I'm a personal routine. And I think for me, my day just is established and putting myself in that right space. I mean, I know that, no matter what's going to happen, something's going to go wrong, but it's just setting yourself up to accept that. It's looking inside yourself in terms of it's a choice for you. You can either choose to be miserable, choose to stress, choose to do this, or you can choose to do something about it. And I think for me, that's where it comes back to getting into a space. My day kicks off very early in the morning, and I find that space. It's my time, 4 o'clock in the morning, prepping myself, as I've said before, maybe reading something in terms of motivational, and et cetera, et cetera. Yesterday, I was looking at an MMA fighter who's got one arm. And if you want to go and have a look at somebody and says, how could an MMA fighter have one arm and fight with one arm? But you go and tell that guy that, it was impossible. He's doing it. He's in the ring. So I think it's our mind space. I think that's what brought me back to where we are today, is that there isn't anything that we can't achieve if we just put our minds to it. But it's finding that space and being open.
So my invitation to you, I'm not going to put this up on the website in terms of the details, but I'd like, you've experienced this exercise. I'd really like you to try as you can. Try 3 times a day or so to expand your energy, to come to that positive space or that energy that you want to cultivate and expand it. And even if you can't at this point in time expand it, but you just can connect with it, just that moment of reflecting gives you choices and choice options about how you continue to behave. And I'd really like you to test that out. I wanted to finish off, as there don't seem to be anything coming up on the line today, with a statement from Thomas Edison. I don't know if some of you know, but he also made another quote where he actually tried to, when he was inventing the light bulb, he actually tried, there's 2 different conflict resources, but it's at least 1,000 times. He failed to invent the light bulb. But his statement at that time was, I have learned 1,000 times what doesn't work. And so I now know that, I at least know that. And for so many of you, you may be struck by the fact that, this stuff is hard work and I don't want to do it. I don't want to connect to myself. So I chose this quote for you because the opportunity is missed because most people see it, is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work. And the reality is that when we are working with ourselves, empowering ourselves, and trying to build ourselves up and recognizing how we can adapt and respond to our environment, our thoughts and our feelings are connected to that. And it is work to actually stop and do that. But I want you to apply your mind to just the concept of where are you at this point in time? And think about how you are focusing your energy at this point in time. Is it achieving what you want right now? Because if it's not, the invitation is to put in the work. Because that 3 times a day, stopping, reflecting, developing a new behavior or pattern will enable potentially you to have a fuller, better quality of life. And just thank you very much for intentionally sharing this time with me and for being here. I wish you well, and we will see you in our last session next week, hopefully, but see you soon. Thank you very much for your time.